Breakups are painful, and some people go through the pain of a breakup week after week, month after month. Sometimes it lasts for years for some people. Some people are not over their exes or their previous partners. Some A lot of you guys who might come across this video came across it because you were looking for information on how to get your ex back or how to handle a breakup, and you've been ruminating over every little thing. Well, I'm going to help you to stop doing that and start getting your life back today. All right. Welcome to Apex Underground, Apex Mindset little podcast here. We're going to talk about breakups again. I did a video about 2 months ago. It's pretty useful. I should put it after this live version's over. I'll have it put in the what do you call it? The tags or whatever it is at the end of the video where you can click on that. You can do a search Apex Mindset and breakups, and you'll get a bunch of videos I've already done, and they're all very valuable. And I talk about this stuff in both my seduction group, my year-long group, as well as in my mindset course, which my year-long coaching group gets that in material, but if you want that material separate and just as a course, there's a place to order that on the website. And I talk about breakups, how they're related to addictions, and a lot of things in there in order to help your recovery. So you may want to go into that. I'm not going to rehash all of those old videos and make all those points all over again. What I'm going to give you today is 4 actual actionable tips of things you can do to help out with the pain of that. Now, just a quick 2 announcement for those of you watching. I am trying something a little bit different with the microphone and sound today. So if I sound muffled or bad, or my sound doesn't sound right, just let me know in the chat. Okay, so that I can try to unask that, because I don't want to do a whole video with poor sound. That always sucks when that happens. So let's get into now the stuff. Okay. So some preliminary things here. All right. Again, I'm not going to rehash all of the old material. Okay. But we're going to assume with these tips that you're resolved in a breakup. In other words, breakup has happened and you're resolved at this point. You're not, you're not back and forth and still banging and still talking and ruminating about things. Things are over with. All right. So let's assume that happened. And there's ways to make that happen the right way, and there's ways to do that the wrong way. All of that is beyond the scope of this video because it's a lot of more of a discussion, but I have done those previous videos on it, and I do cover it in my coaching groups and my stuff like that. There's a way to do it right. And I will say, though, if you have done the breakup correctly, okay, you're resolved in the breakup when that time comes. The time is, let's say now, and you're resolved, all right, then the recovery time for this, if you did the breakup correctly and you're going to do the recovery correctly, is about 6 weeks. That means after 6 weeks, you're ready to date again. And it doesn't matter if you were in a relationship for 20 years or if you were in a, situationship for a few months. Okay. Guys get that attachment and that oxytocin association for a person, sometimes with crushes, especially with guys who aren't very calibrated in their attachments and have unhealthy attachments. A guy could crush on a girl and barely go on a couple dates and then find this hugely painful, that he can't continue seeing her and having a future with her. All right. That happens a lot, especially the younger guys. So, and there's guys who are in 10-year, 15-year, 20 relationships. There is no judgment on how long it takes you, but I'm using the 6 weeks as a benchmark because that's the process. If you're doing it all all well, that's the process your brain will take or need. That's the time rather your brain will need to make different associations and move to acceptance of how things are versus being attached to how things were. The addictive quality of the neurochemicals that happened from the relationship, those addictions, if you will, are able to be sort of overcome and reassociated within about 6 weeks. And so if it's takes you longer than that, or if you're, think it's going to take you longer than that, especially if you're in a situation right now where it's been 6 weeks and you haven't, your feelings are still there for this person, you're still attached to this person, all these things, that tells you something. That tells you you're doing the breakup wrong. Okay. And that you're doing things in a way that's just going to cause you more pain and heartache in the long run. And what's worse than that, though, it's not even the pain, because who gives a shit about that? It's the lack of success and the lack of feelings of well-being and the lack of good relationships that you're able to have in the future because you're being held back by this old relationship, and you're being held back by, all of these feelings and stuff you're wasting on this other person in a dead relationship is hindering you from making more money, looking better, feeling better, being better, having a better time, and having better relationships. And that's the bottom line of it. So when something is over, it's over. There is no honor in grieving a lost loved one, whether it's relationship breaking or even something else, for months and years. There's no honor in that. Okay. You're not impressing anybody. Nobody thinks that you're like a better or good person because you've been grieving your relationship you lost, and your ex has moved on with your life and you're sad about it a year or 2 years later. No, there's no honor in that. Okay. And so you want to be able to move through this process quickly. And I'm not talking about suppressing feelings and doing things in an unhealthy way. I'm talking about being a healthier, better version of you after that 6 week period when things are all done. Now, if most people can't do it in 6 weeks, and the reason why is because the nature of the breakup and what happened during the relationship and how you handled that breakup does make a huge difference as to how you handle the relationship and how you handle the breakup is going to make a major difference on your recovery from that breakup. So if you made a ton of mistakes and you have a ton of regrets and you want all this closure, and you let yourself go in the relationship, and your life is in the toilet when the relationship breaks up, and then you grovel and cry and chase after a person and do a bunch of things, like, not only does it make it, for anybody who thought about getting back with somebody, not only does it make that harder to nearly impossible to do, all right, if you handled the relationship and breakup poorly like that, but it kills your recovery, because you're starting off again without your partner as a single person in a massive deficit, right? A lesser version of you with terrible feelings about yourself because of how you acted and because of how the world responded to your behavior, which in this case would be your ex, everybody else. And so there's a bunch of messages to your brain now that tells you you're lower value, that you're not worth anything, and that this relationship was the only relationship for you, and like all of the nonsense. So when you handle things poorly in the relationship and you handle a breakup poorly, it extends your recovery time. All right. So handling those things right makes the recovery time much easier and better, and you come through it on the other side a better version of yourself. And that's always the goal. So that's the preliminary before we get into any of these 4 tips I'll give you today. And in fact, I'll throw some bonus stuff at the end if you make it that far. Hopefully you do. But that's the thing. So I have coaching groups, and there's links in the description. I have a newsletter that is for free, so that you can manage your relationship the right way, right? For not only for your happiness and long-term success, but in the event that things just aren't working out, that means that you can recover quickly from the loss because you handled things well. You handled things that are conducive of who you see yourself as the best version of yourself. So doing that takes skill, though. Doing that takes having a lot of usually paradigm shifts and changes in your inner game, how you see the world, how you see relationships, and then also learning the skills necessary to interact with your partner, learning the game skills to interact with women in general, learning how to maneuver things socially for yourself. And that's what that my coaching groups are generally all about. And so year-long coaching group. I'm still have some room in my Apex 10. That is a very, very personal one-on-one accountability with me. And I can only have 10 guys in that thing at a time because it's so much contact and stuff that happens on a regular weekly basis. But those two things are available. The link is in the description for you to do a free consult, see if it's for you. And if that is not in your budget and you're not ready for that yet, I got the mindset course is on the website. A lot of these tips will be enhanced by that material. And then, of course, you have if you're going through that breakup, you can schedule me individual consult. That stuff's on the website too. And then for free, this is the newsletter. The newsletter will cover various different topics to help you out. So that's the plug on all my stuff. Now let's get into thing number one. So the preliminary stuff, right? Handling the breakup and handling the relationship the right way. This is not even into the tips yet, but another preliminary is the self-care part of it. When you take a loss or experience stress, the first thing that goes is self-care. The first thing that tends to go for a guy is things that they need to do to maintain the best version of themselves on a daily basis, to show up every day, to fight that good fight, whatever that fight may be, with the most amount of propensity for success, the most productivity, the most energy, all that stuff. There are 8 things, I call it the 8 basics, that you need to manage. Okay. And I'm not going to go over those because it's too much, but out of my 8 basics, at least take this away: sleep and exercise. So if you have just gone through a breakup, you should be working out on a regular basis and getting an hour of movement a day. All right. That doesn't mean you're like doing, bicep curls for an hour a day or something. I mean, you can, I recommend lifting heavy things, but I don't care what you do to work out with, but even on your rest days, maybe you're just doing a walk for, 30 minutes twice a day or 10, 15 minutes after meals and stuff like that, and I'll get into walking and why that's important. But getting physical movement, physical activity. If you're not in a physical job, if you're a physical job, cool. Like you already got a lot of this stuff covered. But most people, they get depressed or they get unmotivated or they get anxious, they get unhappy, and they start ruminating into their problems and they stop working their bodies. Look, working out exercise is an antidepressant and an anti-anxiety. Okay. It's both of those things. Studies have shown 8 weeks of exercise and a regular exercise program has the same effects for most people as taking medication for depression, taking medication for anxiety. So you regulate your body through exercise. You're going through a stressful time. You're going to have a lot of emotions. The exercise is going to help not just your body and your looks and your market value, but it's going to help your brain and help you regulate those emotions and get through this time. But yet that's the thing that people will often forget or they'll stop doing. They'll be at home ruminating, like they'll have a lot of stress. Some people lean into exercise maybe, but others don't. Some people will kill themselves in the gym, but then they'll do it only a couple of days and then they'll be overtrained and they can't really, then they'll skip a few days and lay around. Have some consistency with just movement. All right. Some of that can be the gym time, but on those off days, make sure you're taking those walks and doing some yoga, doing some, mobility drills or joint, health movements or calisthenics or whatever it may be, shadow boxing, whatever it is in between those lift days, right? You're doing an hour of work every day. So that's really important right now. And your sleep is really important. When your anxiety goes up and things, people start to neglect sleep, that's not good. All right. And you don't want to oversleep either because you're so depressed. You don't want to get out of bed if that's your case. So make sure you're getting good quality sleep for a good amount of time. And then you're attacking the day. So that's not even the tips. That's just the preliminary. If you guys got questions, throw a super chat in the thing, or throw something in there so it can help the algorithms. It's an underground podcast because I'm generally shadow banned. However, it helps. Every little bit helps. $2, $5 when you have a serious question, you want it to get noticed. It does boost and help. It tells YouTube that this is content that they should be kicking out. Whether they listen or not will depend, I guess. So moving on, let's get in number one. Then I'll actually look at some of your guys' comments here. Right. So number one is what I call FedEx yourself a perfect partner. So I didn't invent this. This has been around for a while, and other people, other coaches, other, people in the psychology community, counseling, community have used this kind of as a thing. Right. But it is something that I have. It's one of the modules in my mindset course. It's something that I recommend guys return back to every now and then. And that is where you're going to take out some paper, pen, or whatever. You're going to write down and list all the things you would want in your perfect mating partner, your perfect relationship partner, whatever that is. And so that's going to look different for everybody, look a little bit different between different people. But you want to write all that stuff down and get it on paper. And it's like, I call it FedExing yourself your perfect partner, because it's like if you were going to FedEx yourself a chick that would be your perfect match, what would she look like, act like, be like? What would her interests be? Those sorts of things. What would her personality be like? What are her values? What are some of the things she's not going to do, right? What are some of the things that she doesn't value? What are some of the things, all of those things. And so you write all that stuff down. And I recommend that guys get out of their judgment portions of their minds when they do this. You're not here to judge yourself for your preferences right now, okay? You're just here to get it on paper and puke it up. There's no judgment. If you like big giant titties or something, put big titties down. Okay. It's no judgment here. If you have a thing for girls with, hazel or green eyes or something like that's your thing, whatever, put it down. If you prefer brown, blue, doesn't matter. Skin color, race, it doesn't matter. There's no judgment on this exercise. It's your thing. You can put those things down. You can get as specific or as general as you want. It's okay. All right. And I recommend writing down the superficial stuff. Why? Because people want to pretend like those don't matter and focus on just like the qualities that make themselves look good. Like she needs to be honest and have integrity and be a good communicator. Yeah, no shit. What are the things that you really want though? Right? What are the things, and those, obviously being a good communicator is important, but what does a good communicator mean? How about get more specific? Like doesn't have toxic communication patterns, doesn't stonewall or do this, like, isn't critical of me, doesn't like sit here and have contempt towards me, is open to being wrong, wants to take personal responsibility, whatever that looks like. These are some things, but get more specific. Don't just write general shit that, makes that you would write down if some teacher gave you an assignment and then was going to share it with the class so everybody could say that you're a good guy. All right. Like put fat ass, big titties, brown eyes, and, must be Asian, or whatever your weird quirk is. I don't care. And then your personality stuff, likes, my sense of humor. I mean, whatever. But you want to write all this stuff down. Okay. You just puke it on a piece of paper. It doesn't matter the order of it, doesn't matter. There is no format here. And the reason you format it how you like, that's really important too, because guys want me to sometimes I'll get guys in a coaching program or whatever. They want me to have a worksheet for them where there's a format where I cover categories and all this stuff. No, not going to do it. You have to come up with it yourself, even if it means you Google search some different things, which I don't even recommend, by the way. I just recommend that you really spend some time in contemplation, in a quiet, nice, brain stimulating area where you can creatively write this stuff down. Now, why is this important? Because what you choose to write down, what you end up with as this list after spending enough time on it, when you decide, I think it's a good list, that's going to tell you more things about yourself. If I tell you, okay, here's your categories: physical and values and, hobbies, right? Or whatever. If I'm giving you a bunch of categories and giving you in a worksheet or something like that, so you can be a robot and not use your brain up here, it's not going to help you very much. Not very much, because this is an activity to help you learn about yourself. All right. You're going to learn what your preferences are, and there's no wrong answers. Okay. And you can take a look at this stuff. You can see, and of course, if you were in a consultation with me or one of my coaching groups, we could see together what is going on with you. All right. With your preferences, because you may be able to spot some red flags in yourself. You may be able to respond or find or see some things that maybe not red flags, but maybe just tells you a little bit about you. You know what I mean? People are generally unaware of themselves, and they're generally unaware of what pushes their buttons when they're attracted to somebody. Most of those people are women, but you guys are unaware too. Okay. But the reason you're so unaware is because men tend to go with availability. The girl who touches your pee-pee the most and the bestest when you're single ends up being your girlfriend for most of you. That's how it is. All right. It's she touched your wee wee the mostest or the bestest, or you wanted her to do it the mostest. Mostest is not a word. I realize that's okay. It's just as dumb as most of your guys' mating strategies. You're not aware. You don't know why this girl pushes your buttons over somebody else. You know what I mean? You don't know those things. And that's why you ended up in a relationship that came to a demise to begin with, right? There's something that is a little bit wrong with you that you could fix and learn about. And this is part of that process. Okay. And so you get all that stuff down on paper. And then what I want you to do is I want you to circle the things that are the non-negotiable things. So these are the things that, like, that you're not going to have long-term happiness with somebody unless these things are present. That if this is there, or if this is not there, I'm just not going to really, I could do it for a little bit, but I'm not going to be able to do it long term. All right. So that's really important. And that knocks out a lot of superficial stuff, right? Things that aren't that important. Like for me, for example, like I'm not really, things like hair color isn't that important for me. I have a preference to brunettes, but that doesn't mean that I would be unhappy if my girlfriend had different hair color or something like that naturally. It's just like I really just want her to look good, right? And so those things aren't that important. Things like height, that's not important to me. But it may be important to you, and that's okay, right? So there's preferences, and there's no real wrong answer on it. It just gives you information about you. But whatever those things are, I have my non-negotiables, and make sure you put down in there the things you don't want. You just got out of a relationship that didn't work out, and so there's things in there that didn't work for some reason, all right? And some of that stuff is you, and some of that stuff is her. And so the things that are her probably don't want to repeat those. There's probably things that she was like, things that she did that really add up to not being a good partner for you. And so you want to notice those things as being important. And so now you have this list, okay, that you got all of these traits and different things of, who your perfect partner looks like. And then you got all of the non-negotiables circled. So now what you have is awareness of what a good partner would look like to you. Okay. This is going to help you as you go back out into the dating market and you're spinning plates, dating women, whatever you want to call it. When a girl doesn't have these characteristics, at least the non-negotiable ones, and it doesn't look like she's going to get those anytime soon, that probably tells you she's not a good match for you. So even if she is touching your pee-pee like you like, perhaps you shouldn't go off and give your commitment to that girl. perhaps you should keep it casual or move on so you're not sinking your time into somebody that is going nowhere other than a good time, maybe. All right. And there's nothing wrong with good times. We all have good times. Okay. Nothing wrong with dating somebody just because they're a good time. But you screw yourself up, though, when you get those neurochemical attachments to somebody that's not a good partner for you. You did that before, or you wouldn't have been in a breakup. Right. And so don't do it again. Use this as a measure to help you vet. But that's not the only reason why this is important activity, because, right, we're talking about recovering from pain from a breakup. Why is this important? This gives you insight as to like what a perfect partner looks like for you. And then what I want you to do, here's the next part, which you don't, if you're not dealing with a breakup, this isn't that important. But when someone is dealing with a breakup, or especially if you're hung up on somebody, right, go ahead and do this activity. Compare your partner or your ex to this checklist. Most of the time, if guys are being objective and not lying to themselves, which is the hard part because most of you guys will lie to yourselves, but most of the guys, if you're being objective and not lying to yourself, you're going to see that there are a number of things on your list that your ex does not have. All right. If she's the perfect person and she doesn't match, your list is perfect and the ex is perfect and you just lost the perfect person, then you didn't do your damn list right. Okay. Because the list should probably have on there some things that are related to how she might treat you, related to her attraction and desire towards you. So by default, an ex is somebody who doesn't have that desire or attraction enough towards you to want to be in a relationship, and probably doesn't treat you exactly the way that you should be treated in a relationship. So at the very least, those two things are a no-go. Okay. So for those of you dum-dums who are going to idealize some ex and make her the queen of your everything and put her on your pedestal and, want to cut your wrists in a bathtub because, you can't get over this breakup, you have a mental health issue. All right. You need to stop it, because this person, even if you cannot do this list without thinking about her and just putting her traits down, because you're that freaking broken and simping and that off your point of origin as a man, which is why, if anything, that is definitely why it didn't work out also, whether you realize it or not. That is why relationships will not work out for you, by the way, if that's your mindset. So if that's all there, you have a big problem. That means you need to get into therapy, schedule something with me, interview for a program, but you might not be a fit for the program. I might send you to a therapist first. Depends on how fucked you are. And I'm not trying to be a dick. I mean, and I'm not saying that for like, let me vote you off the island. I'm saying that from a perspective because of you need to get help and you need to get the best help you can. And if you have a massive issue, an attachment issue that is pointing towards like a disordered behavior, that you may need something for that, if that's you. Okay. But I don't want to label, guys who are super attached as being disordered necessarily. That might not be it. Again, schedule that consult or whatever, shoot a message to me, something like that. Okay. We can try to figure it out, but you definitely need help. If your list matches the X 100%, you're already wrong, because it shouldn't, because she's an X. And there's a certain way that a partner in your relationship should treat you. There's a certain way that your woman should treat you. And there's a certain way that she should desire you. And if that's not on the list, you're already wrong. And if it is on the list, then your ex doesn't match that. So by default, she's not perfect. Okay. So there. So we got that out of the way. So, but you want to do this list independent of other people you've been with as best as you can. Idealize. We're good at this as men, idealizing things. This is why we accomplish stuff. So use the powers of idealization, not for evil, okay, to prop your old relationship up like you shouldn't, but use the powers of idealization to think of, what if you could create, what if there's this new person and it was everything you wanted? What would that look like? And that's how you do this. When you compare your old partner, you'll see things don't match up. You'll see that things were wrong most of the time. I can't think of a time when it hasn't, been a perfect match, or not perfect match, hasn't been a, not a perfect match, right? There's always usually a number of things on there that indicates you two weren't a good match. So the reason why this is step number one is because the pain and the breakup causes you to go through stages of grief. During going through those stages, bargaining happens, right? And you're asking yourself questions, you're wanting to find answers. Your tendency is going to want to go to the other person to get the answers. She doesn't have any additional answers or help for you. Okay. She doesn't. Once that relationship's over, and she's, whether you need it to be over or whether she decided it was over, the dynamic between you two has changed. Any answer she gives you is not going to be reliable because it's going to be clouded by her emotions that she's having during a breakup, which is not the same as the emotions she had when she was happy and together with you. So you will not really get an objective viewpoint from her. I'm not saying that some information that she might say, I'm not saying it's all lies or it's all not true. There may be some truth to some things she may say, and then there may be some bullshit in there. And the problem is, in a high emotional state, you're not going to be able to tell the difference that well. And if I'm having to hear somebody's information and having to sit there and diagnose what's valuable and true here, what isn't, then probably not. It's probably a waste of time anyway, then, for me to try to get insight or try to learn something too much from that. You know what I mean? So a lot of you guys get the anxiety goes up and you want to run to the partner. You want to run to your ex to try to make your anxiety calm down. This is why you search her social media. This is why you watch her stories on Facebook or Instagram, whatever it is, her Snapchat stories. This is why you guys want to have another phone conversation. Or maybe I should tell her that I really apologize for this. Or maybe I should tell her, well, she was a good woman in some ways, and I feel like I should tell her that. And, all the bullshit you guys do to extend this process of feeling pain and being stuck in a dead relationship, you need to not do those things. Okay. This will help you not do those things. These activities are going to help you because you're putting your problem solving skills where they belong and not to her. She's a dead end now because there's no investment for her anymore necessarily. There's just the motives. Everything else is off now because she's no longer on your team. You see, she's not with you anymore, which makes her not on the same side of the table as you for all things anymore. Maybe some things, but not all things. The dynamic has changed. And so any truth or insight that you think you'll get, that your brain will lie to you and tell you you're going to get from her, it's a lie. It's a lie because you're in pain. So when you're in pain, because the pain pleasure balance is off in the brain starts giving you messages. You should do this. You should go over there today and grab your stuff unannounced, or you should it starts giving you all of these ideas, and they're all stupid. They're all ideas that are designed for you to try to get your little addiction fed. All right. Which is this neurochemical addiction. We all have it. I'm not better than anybody else. We all have it. And I'm talking about it in a disparaging way for a reason. So you get the message. Don't do stupid shit. All right. So instead, do what I tell you, which is to focus on the things that matter within yourself, getting the insight. You have enough information. You were there. The relationship happened. You have enough information now. You don't need any more information from her. What you need to do is diagnose based on the information you have. And that's going to be doing some activities to help the processing part of your brain to work through these things, and maybe getting some insight or advice. I mean, that's what I'm here for. But if you're not necessarily hiring me for that advice, that's okay. Maybe you have a good friend or confidant that is objective and knows these issues. But I know that's tough, though, because most guys don't have any good understanding of this stuff. That's why a lot of guys are in my year-long program and they renew. They have the skills, they got the course material, but they want the community of guys who are on the same page as them. That's very helpful. All right. And so that's what you need to do. You need to look within and get opinions from good, objective outside sources when you need them. And that could be a friend or confidant that actually knows what they're doing, or a good coach in this case, or in some cases a therapist or counselor if they're good. But that's where your help goes. You don't need to go to her. And so these activities are designed to help you with that. So that's number one, is this FedEx yourself a perfect partner situation. And what you do is you compare the X to it. You're going to see where the holes are. You're going to see where the mistakes were. You're going to see where you overlooked some things. You're going to see where you got into it with this person and then decided, well, shit, I care about them. I love them. But, I need these things to change for it to work. And they weren't changing. And I stayed in it trying to make those things change. Right. You're going to see the imperfections. What this does is it sets your mind up for not idealizing that relationship and that person, because it's not to shit all over her either, because that actually won't help you that much usually, because she's a human being, right? So she's not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. And the relationship did in fact end. If you were the perfect partner for her and she was the perfect partner for you, and your skills were in order, right? Perhaps it wouldn't have broken up. Even with skills lacking, even with some traits lacking, if you guys are a really good match, the emotional buy-in is there to work through things, right? Which you're broken up now, so that's not the case. One or both of you doesn't have the emotional buy-in to keep it together. So something was missing along these things that you would want in a perfect partner. Something is missing in her, or you would be together. And so this gives you that awareness. This awareness of her imperfections, flaws, also then alludes to the flaws in the relationship, but we'll get to that as number 2 and 3. But this awareness of these things is what takes you out of the fantasy part of your brain, idealizing this past relationship. The pain that you're in wants to cause you to idealize and put her up there and all this stuff. And then you'll go through, oscillating. You'll be mad, angry, upset, and you'll be degrading her in some ways in your head. And then then the next day you'll be missing her and you'll be having it, and it takes it out of that and it puts it into more of an objective view. And it gives you that understanding that, look, she ain't perfect. The relationship wasn't perfect. It's over, and that's okay. Right? That's what this exercise does for your brain. And then it also helps you have awareness and intentionality when you're ready to go back out in the dating market. So that's number 1. All right. And so let's look at some things. And so we got some good questions here in the chat. Start with my super chat, my favorite actor, Glenn Lawrence. Did you give the 5th secret tip for handling pain, which is smash your ex's best friend? Yeah, that's tip number 6. That's behind the paywall. How to hook up with your ex's friends and her mom and her sister. Good hearing from you, Glenn. Just fun. So let's go into a couple other things were mentioned. Was yeah, we're going to address nostalgia here. That's a good one. One of the real problems is that you're only going to think of the good memories, not the bad ones. Well, when you're in pain, with pain and time, that tends to happen. Yep, we're going to address that. Speak from the perspective as the dumper, not just being dumped. Yeah. So in this video, this is both perspectives, regardless of whether you dumped or whether you've been dumped. These tips are important, because even as the dumper, usually there's a lot of the biggest problem for the dumper is they question themselves. Did I do the right thing? Did I dump her the right way? Should I have dumped her? So the feeling of loss kicks in for the dumper eventually. If it doesn't happen right away for a guy, it'll happen later. and it depends though, of course, how bad things were in the relationship. But there's that sense of regret, or that sense of, did I give it a chance? Did I do, like, because guys greatly care about, most guys have a strong desire to take care of the baby maker, right? So once you get in a relationship, there's a certain amount of responsibility you feel that you have, and that you do have, for your relationship partner. And so you guys will have regrets of, did I uphold my end of the bargain? Did I uphold my responsibilities? Should I have given it more time? Should I have not, should I have explained things better? Should I have not had so many fights? Or should I have not done, it's a lot of regretting stuff. Okay. And we're going to talk about that stuff. But these exercises I'm giving is they're from, doesn't matter whether you dumped, or whether you were the person that got dumped. Okay. And so that's, thanks, Sluggo. I appreciate it. Best advice on this topic. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Um, Easy to get injury when you lean into the gym too hard and fast. This is true, which is why I'm stressing, just, it's an hour a day of movement. Don't, working out hard is good too, but I mean, it's just, you want to think in terms of, what can I need to make sure I'm able to move for an hour a day. So if you crush a good workout, you're not so overtrained that you're dead and you can't go for a walk the next day, or ride a bike at a chill pace, or do some yoga, right? So let's look some more. You really are excellent at explaining dynamics without dissing women. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Because we kind of want to be in relationships with them, whether it's casual or something more, right? Like, that's why we're here as heterosexual, males who are here, which is most of my audience. So yeah, why would I just have this be the power hour of crapping all over women? Like, I don't understand that shit. And it doesn't help anybody. But I'm glad you recognize that, man. Thank you so much. Well, I'm here. I can help you with that. Have that harem, buddy. All right, so cool. Let's get back into now the tips. Yep. If you guys got things, though, like I said, throw it in the chat. So yeah, FedEx yourself, perfect partner. That's one thing that will help you. And if you do that in the beginning, that sets your mental framework up right. Okay. Now, number two, you're gonna have a lot of, as you're going through this process, you're going to have a lot of pain that is going to disrupt your day. And so what we want to do is we want to smash through that pain. Now, there's two things on pain. First of all, is pain is good. Okay. Pain in this case is good, because when you come out of it on the other side, you're more resilient. You can't be more resilient without pain. I kind of feel that every dude, but I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe maybe it's not a necessary thing, right? But I think that it is beneficial for every dude to be madly in love with some chick, all right, or infatuated, even if it's not. I mean, call it what it is. Probably madly infatuated with some girl, and to have her just smash his heart on the floor. Like, I think that's a good thing. I think every guy should have that happen at least once. Not because it's a pleasant experience, right? But because the pain you go through after that builds resilience. It builds you into a better man, and relationships end. It's part of life. It's a reality. And so if you learn skills on how to handle it, and you do it in a right way where you come out the other end stronger and better, and with better and more insights, that's going to help you in your future. It's going to help you in your future relationships. It's going to help you handle loss. It's going to help you attack the world and the problems that are in front of you. So become more resilient. Don't ask, for the pain to go away. Just use the pain to your advantage. So what does that mean? Like, well, you're going to have a bunch of pain. And so point that pain towards action. All right. That's attacking your goals, getting out and doing stuff. Whenever you feel the pain and you're sort of ruminating in that, you point that towards action. Okay, so that's part of like this step of number two, which is you're going to challenge your anxious thoughts and challenge these anxious beliefs. Part of it, and I've gone through this in another video. I stepped this out pretty good. And this is actually in the mindset course pretty good. So if those of you who have that, that's the chapter on handling anxiety, right? And the anxiety or belief challenge is the name, I think, of that module. So, but to give this synopsis, what you're going to do is you're going to, when you have an anxious or bad thought about the breakup or whatever it is that's popping in your mind, I want you to write that down in some sort of notes or journal or whatever it is, something you can have on you and very easily access and write it down. I use notes in my phone because it's just easy, right? And so you just open it up and you write down what it is and you tell yourself, I'm going to look at that later, and then you put it away. This is going to get you back. And then what I want you to do is I want you to break the pattern. So you're going to, dive back into your work, or you're going to get up and grab a glass of water or take a leak, whatever it is, you got to break the pattern mentally and physiologically, right? Even if you come up with an anchoring word like let's go, clap your hands, like, and now we're going to do something else, whether it's on a computer, whether it's picking up a phone, whether it's, hammering, doing some carpentry, like whatever it is, fixing the, some wiring some stuff together because you're an electrician, whatever it is you do for a living, right? Whatever it is you're doing as a hobby, whatever it is you're doing for self-improvement, whether it's that next set or it's that next chapter or whatever it is, you just log in on your notes, what it is, and then you go back to your activity. All right. You just go back to it. And so what this does is anxiety and stress is going to tell you that this is a problem. Pain pleasure balance is off in the brain. You have this feeling, this angst, and this dissatisfaction, and you just want it to go away. And the brain is going to tell you, well, what's going to make that go away is to ruminate about your relationship. So this means you have to, and then of course, there's all kinds of code words that I think well-meaning counselors, therapists, and self-helpy people, right, will tell you, but that is not good advice, which is they'll have you basically ruminate like, well, you need to process the feelings and work through your emotions, right? Which just means for most people that they sit here and ruminate and think and overthink and think all about her and this, and then she said that and I said this, and what is she doing right now, and what does that mean? When's she gonna text me again? Should I text her about this? Stop it, right? All of that rumination, all that bullshit fuels more anxiety. Anxiety fueled activity like that, right, just you puts you in you're already in a negative bias going into it. That's why you have these bad feelings. And so you're just going to propagate more bad feelings. And then you're going to look for evidence or whatever, whether it's through thinking about things or trying to search through old texts or whatever it is. You're going to look for this evidence, all from the perspective of a negative bias and anxiety, which so what that means is even if you go through old texts, you're not going to have new and fresh and good insights. You're going to have insights from a standpoint of anxiety. And I say anxiety, it's lack of a better term, but we'll say that discomfort, all right, that discomfort of that loss, those feelings. This is not processing through loss, really. I mean, it kind of is, because if you just do it over and over again for forever, eventually most people get desensitized, but they don't really walk away through. It usually takes a long time. It's painful, and they don't walk away with better or new insights. And then they don't walk away a better person. Ultimately, what makes you get really through a breakup is being a better person at the end of it, ultimately. All right. Because then that is the underlying message to the primal part of your mind that wants to know you have reproductive value, knows that you are not only reproductively valuable, but that you're better. You're more valuable now than you were before. That's the best thing you can do, is to send that monkey brain of yours that message by not ruminating and being stuck on a past relationship because you have feelings and bad feelings. What you're going to do instead is you're going to note the feelings, say to yourself, you'll deal with it later, then go back to your activity. You'll have this rush and this angst. And so all of that terrible feelings, when you channel it towards action, that's what becomes motivation. Pain is your biggest motivator. Pain is always the biggest motivator for anything. When you take the pain and you point it towards useful action in other areas of your life, you end up like exponentially improving in these other areas. Some of the best times of improvement for any man is when he does this correctly. When he has a loss or takes a massive loss, has a ton of pain from the loss, and then channels all that pain into making himself better. He comes out the other end as a better version of himself, literally, and a better person. And once he's the better person, that means he has better sexual options, better relationship options. So that ultimately is what has you recover from it. More than anything else, more than all the other tips I'm giving you, just using the pain to be better. If you don't take these anxious thoughts and feelings and put them down someplace, tell yourself I'll deal with it later, and then go back to the activity, what's going to happen is you won't really be able to, because if you say to anxious thoughts, okay, but that's a dumb thought. I don't need to think about this. That's weak, or that's useless, or that's this, that's that. And you judge it. What happens is the brain will speak louder to you. It's seeing this and perceiving pain and perceiving that like you need to address this right now or else we're going to die. That's what anxiety is. That's what these bad feelings are. They're a form of pain that are telling you and forcing you and pushing you into wanting to solve it somehow. And if you tell it to go fuck off, it's going to say fuck you, and it's going to get more intense. So instead, tell it, I hear you, and we'll deal with you later. Okay. And then there's a specific way that I cover this in my mindset courses and in sessions and stuff. But just for the length of the video here, I'm not going to get into it completely. But what you're going to do then is you're going to take those thoughts, okay, and you're going to think about those later. And this is where you're going to use a specific type of format where you're going to challenge these thoughts. What are these thoughts that you're having that's stimulating the anxiety, or the anxiety is stimulating the thoughts? Either way, what do these thoughts mean? What do they mean? What do they tell you about your schemas, meaning your unconscious beliefs, right? If you're having this bad feeling and these bad thoughts, and you're wanting to have a tendency to do action that isn't a good action to take, what does that tell you about limiting beliefs you have, or beliefs that maybe aren't productive or true, that are underlying? You know what I mean? And so that's how we figure out these schemas or these operating principles. We pull those out from the dark and into the light, because we do a lot of behaviors based on unconscious belief systems, things that are existing behind the conscious areas of our brain. And so, well, if we were aware of those, then we would know to do something different. Or we're not aware of those things. And so we pull those things out when we're able to look at these things that makes us have these bad feelings and challenge them, And so, some examples is if you're grieving the relationship and you're like, man, it's, like you're thinking about the thoughts that are being stimulated is it's just, you'll never have these good times again, for whatever reason. Well, that's pointing to a schema or limiting belief that a whole bunch of them. Perhaps it's that your sexual market value or your worth is not good enough to have this with somebody different. Or perhaps it's this person was the one for you. That's the one-itis thing, right? That consciously is bullshit maybe, but unconsciously you have a belief system here that's telling you that she's irreplaceable, and not that a person is replaceable, because we're all individuals, but every relationship is unique. But you have these limiting beliefs that are telling you can't have something better, or perhaps that life can't be better without another person, these different things. And so you can't challenge these if you don't look at them. And so there's a specific way that, again, that I do it for the guys that are coaching with me, but this is enough for the video, is just take these things and contemplate on those and look for insight. Okay. If you have the mindset course, the belief challenge, anxiety challenge, there's a whole hour and a half talk on this exact activity. So for those of you with that, reference that, go there and do that. Okay. So part of writing this down and doing this stuff is where the journaling happens. And that's number 3 is journaling. All right. Everyone says they, recommends journaling. I'm a terrible journaler. I don't keep anything. I write stuff down and I get my insights and then I like discard them, like that's what I do. And so, but that's just me, whatever, I don't keep volumes of journals I've had, but the act of writing things down and contemplating things is a good thing. This is what you do, again, when you're allowing yourself to do it. See, when you tell your brain, okay, all that pain, that's cool, and those thoughts, we're going to think about those later. I'll take a little quick note on that too, so I remember what to think about. Now we're going to go back to work. And then later on, you spend 30 minutes a day, maybe something like that, allowing yourself to contemplate these things. You can write journal stuff too, where your insights are. And that's what number 3 is, journaling and writing your insights about this. What you're doing is you're taking control of your time and you're sending a message to your brain that there is no danger or threat here, that this pain that you're experiencing is just the pain of the loss and the associated, relationship that you've lost, and that, but there is no action to be taken. There is no urgency there. It's a lost or dead relationship. So we need to process this stuff and move it to acceptance. We need to go through those stages of grief, get over to acceptance. Right. So, because your behavior will tell you whether we should accept a loss or whether we shouldn't accept the loss, and whether we should continue to ruminate and dig up the past and go talk to her and try to have sex with our ex and, see if she's checking our stories on Facebook and, all that bullshit, all that weak ass shit that you guys do. And I've done it too, in an earlier past life. So I understand. Okay. But all that is weak ass shit. And I'm judging it for a reason, because I want you to judge it too. Don't do weak ass shit, because what it does is it stimulates the mind into wanting to cure this pain through that partner, through that person. And you can't anymore. It's a dead relationship, right? And so, like, you can't get the oxytocin from it. You can't. When you do, it's just like little small hits because she paid attention to you that day or whatever it is. But it's at the end of it, it's a sink. And you're not letting yourself process through that grief. You're instead holding on to the idea, whether you believe it or not consciously, all the actions are telling you, yeah, this could still be a thing here, that, that pain could still be cured and solved by this person you were with. Yeah, we should leave these doors open. In fact, I should kick more anxiety up if he doesn't hear from her for a couple of days, just so he does these things some more, like it just keeps you in that stuff. So the act of taking control of it and saying, no, I'm not going to ruminate about this. And then having a time where you do allow yourself to think and contemplate and process, right? Whether you use my anxiety and belief challenge thing from my course material or not, is just the act of doing it and taking insights from it tells your brain to go recover faster and to move this to acceptance, right? A lot of you guys do all of the shitty, you do all of the behaviors that aren't going to help you recover. And then you come to me, or you come to another person, or you look for advice, asking why you're still hung up on this person, as if it's some fantasy thing or situation. Like, there must be some horoscope in the air that says I should be with her because I did all the right things, and and I still have feelings for her. No, you didn't. No, you fucking didn't. Right? What you did is you did things, followed part of the advice to justify the reasons why somehow this thing that's over with is somehow special. It's not. Okay. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. It is not fucking special. People break up all the time. If it was special, you'd be together. Breaking up is not special. That's what people do. So stop idealizing the situation. But that's some people will do that shit though. They will go through like half of they'll go through motions, but not do it with the right mental framework. Well, what the fuck's the point then? You know what I mean? They'll say they're doing it, but really not doing it. And I know they're lying to me sometimes. I catch some of these guys and we'll start doing, I'll catch them fucking lying to me like in the first couple of weeks, and I'll call them out, and then usually they fix it. Usually we're good. All right. I'm pretty good at that. But, don't lie to when you talk to me one-on-one or not, it doesn't matter. Don't lie to yourself, right? When you go through these things, mean it. Okay. Have the right intentions. Okay. You're just going to hurt yourself. So we've done a number of things. We've done thing number one, right? FedEx yourself perfect partner. So you see that your partner you were with was not perfect. The relationship was not perfect, wasn't even ideal probably. And therefore something else is out there that you need to go get and create for yourself based on your efforts and based on your interactions with better girls, right? So that's what number one tells you. Number two tells that pain pleasure, puts in check that pain pleasure area of the brain and puts it in check and says, I'm in charge of it. There is no emergency here. We're not doing activities that are going to cause me to continue to stimulate these feelings of wanting to be with this person and being caught up in this relationship. Instead, I'm going to do things to stimulate my success and bettering myself by redirecting that energy, using the pain, most important thing. And then I'm going to process these things on my own time. Okay. So that's what that does. And that's what the journaling does, right? Doing a little bit of that a day, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And you can allow yourself to process. All right. So that's number three. Before we get to number four, you want to make sure, this is a word from my sponsor. My sponsor is Sterling Cooper's new pills. I talked about them last week, so I just want to interrupt our flow for a second. In the link in the description, I have a link there to get on trying some of his male enhancement pills. And the design of these pills are not just to be quick, easy boner pills like a Viagra or something, although not discounting the use of those things for those that use them. But and it's not to say too that these pills aren't going to give you that stimulus right away. If you take them, your stuff is going to be, your boners are going to be bonerific. All right. For that girl you're trying to have a great time with. That's a given, but it's designed to nutritionally support your body too, like a supplement. So if you take it regularly every day, what it does is it's building your body's ability to maintain those strong erections at will and when you want them and need them throughout, the rest of your life, right? Like as you age, as all these things happen, you're taking care of your health. And this is actually part of taking care of your health is having the right nutrition, and supplements help with that nutrition. And his stuff looks really good. I haven't gotten my shipment in yet. I'm going to try it just to see how it works, how it feels. I already use most of those things as separate supplements. So most of what he includes in his product, which is called Wood, I use already. Like, for example, beet juice, citrulline. Like these are things I use regularly. And so he has it packaged up in a nice, affordable supplement that's well researched. It looks good. The profile looks good. Link is in the description, and that's a sponsor for today's show if you want to do that. Okay, so now we'll get back into it. What's the last thing, and then some bonus tips so we got those things in order. So we're getting control of our anxiety. We're getting control of our pain. We're using it to our advantage. Okay, we have the insights that, hey, wasn't the perfect relationship, wasn't the perfect partner. Our brains are forward thinking to a better version of ourselves, better life, better relationships in the future. Now, what's number four? Number four is to speed up the process in our brains neurologically. So instead of grieving and grieving and doing that forever, okay, and having our brain stuck in the same neurological patterns that are causing us to be sad, angry, upset, stressed, anxiety, and have all these bad feelings, we want to speed up that process of reprogramming that brain. Simple activity to do that is forward movement, where you're using your physical body to make that happen. And that would be walking. Could go for a jog if it's long enough, but you don't have to. Really, you can just do walking every day. Or for those of you who ride motorcycles, because you do use your body to ride the motorcycle. Got some construction outside. I don't know if it's interrupting my audio or not, but that's okay. But yeah, that's another thing too. But it's forward movement. Moving forward is how our body evolved to processing distressing or bad feelings. And you're going to have a lot of them throughout this process. And so if you're not on a regular walking regimen, do so. Even if it's just 10 minutes, 5 minutes here or there. Frequency is better, is as good as length. So you don't necessarily need to go for a 60-minute walk, although that's fine to do and great. But you get a ton of benefit from like 10-minute walks. Even a 5-minute walk if you don't have that much time. But a 10-minute walk gives you the most bang for your buck in terms of time to results. About 10 minutes, just going for a walk. And it's not just a physical exercise. It's also break state and stuff like that when you have a lot of bad feelings. But this is the process of moving forward allows our brain to process negative or bad emotions. Has something to do, there's a whole science behind it I can get into, but it was beyond the scope of this show. But in theory, it has something to do with the fact that we were nomadic. And during tribal times, we dealt with a lot of death. We dealt with a lot of stress. We dealt with a lot of fears of the unknown, and how we as human animals learned and our brains learned to process that stress was through forward movement and sleep also. So I remember I said to optimize your sleep. That's still important. But another thing to add into that is that forward movement. And that forward movement will help you process these bad feelings faster. All right. So the tendency for a lot of people might be to lock themselves in the basement or in their house and turn off all the lights and eat bad food and be sad for multiple days after this breakup. You're not helping yourself. I mean, hey, if you do that for a day, okay, cool. Well, all right. Well, but now what? You got to get yourself back into the world. And when you go back into it, instead of operating in the world with all this distress over this relationship that is sinking your time, energy, and costing you massive amounts of everything, costing you your life, okay? Just go through this process, get rid of it, and expedite the process through walking, all right? Or, again, riding a motorcycle is good because that forward movement. Riding in a car is okay, but not as good. Only, I mean, unless you're race car driving or something, but I mean, I'm sure there are exceptions, but the reason why is because the physical movement or physical action. I mean, hey, you could go kayaking too, right? There's a lot of things, but it's having the eyes forward and up and stimulating both sides of the brain, through we'll call bilateral stimulation of the brain, because even if the wind is only blowing on one side, left ear, let's say, feels something, he hears and perceives something different in the brain than the right ear. And so the different perceptions on either sides of the body and the physical movement seems to help too. Although you can take that away, like in terms of EMDR, which is a great therapy method, not necessarily doing something physical, and it still works very well, but that's generally aided by an EMDR therapist, right? So in absence of that, walking though is very, very useful. You'll find it to be amazing, incredible. And if you're processing through grief or loss, I recommend wear those sunglasses because, You may cry, you may tear up, and and maybe you don't want everybody to know. Who knows, right? I want you to do nothing when you go on the walk to shield or to hinder those emotions. That walk is when you allow yourself to have those emotions. And in fact, a good thing to do with walking, and somebody had addressed that we tend to remember the good times and not the bad. It's the good times that we tend to idealize and we hang on to. The good times are what are good to think about when you're on that walk. The things that you're going to miss, the things that you're sad about, the things that ex-girlfriend used to do that made you happy, the things that you liked about her, the things that you appreciated about her. These are things to think about and be sad about while you're walking. This is what you're losing, right? And so it's okay to be sad about those things. You just don't want to be sad about those things forever and then lie to yourself and make it some idealized thing and ruin your life. That happens because guys don't face these realities too. There's two realities you need to face here. One is you face the reality that, she's not a good partner for you. You'd still be together. And that there's things you need to change about yourself. And there's things that about that relationship dynamic that are why it didn't work. And it's good that it's over with. If you're lost a relationship, congratulations. I mean that. Not I'm sorry. Not, oh, well, that's, I feel bad that happened to you. No, good. I'm happy for you. You got divorced? Good. You lost your relationship? I'm happy for you. Now, obviously, I'm not happy that you're going through pain. I'm not happy if you are struggling, with a divorce and there's kid issues with the kids and stuff. No, of course, I don't like that about it. But that relationship wasn't good to begin with, or wouldn't have needed to break up, right? And it takes two, so even if she's the one who broke it up, good. Okay, because it's an opportunity to make your life better. You need to understand that. You need to recognize that. But you also want to recognize, too, the parts that were good and to allow yourself to grieve the loss of that from that person. It doesn't mean you'll never have good feelings with somebody again. It just means that that person, in the unique experience you had with her won't happen again. It's going to be something else and preferably something better, right? But if you don't allow yourself to have those moments and grieve that, then that's why you hang on to things. This is why there's two aspects to this. And if you're not allowing yourself to grieve the loss of the good times, then you're going to do these maladaptive things to try to hang on to the relationship. Just as much if you don't allow you have to allow yourself to recognize that this wasn't a good relationship too. Right. And also learning from it, because that's another thing. What you learn gives loss meaning. So what you learn from this gives the loss meaning. And so it means something now because of what you've learned. And now you can go off and do better. And so these 4 things are going to help you. Okay. Now, some other things to add is some bonus stuff here. But actually, I'll check the chat and see what we got. Oh, my camera's off. Well, fuck me, huh? Wasn't even like that. I wonder how long that was off for. Let's try this again. Oh, we're messing with this thing. How's my audio? Is my audio okay? No, that's not a true thing. Let's do this again. I don't know why it. There we go. Man, I'm glad the audio is good. So at least we got that part. Sorry you missed my ugly mug. It's fine. You didn't need to see me anyways. I'm not that pretty, right? Some bonus things here though. To process through this stuff, if you're not able to process through it again in 6 weeks, hit me up. Give me a call. All right. Maybe because joining one of my groups for a break after a breakup is a good thing. It's a good time to do it. The reason that's such a good time to do it is because you're going to process through this and you'll have all the support and help you need through that to do it quickly. And then you'll have the whole rest of the year to get all your other stuff in order, get your goals in order, your purpose as a man in order. You'll have help on that. And then, of course, getting into the new and better relationships and getting out there and dating and actually having a good time with women again, that's going to be part of that process. And you're going to do that whole process within the next year. So if you're going through a breakup, that's actually a really good time. Or if you've just been gone through that, that's a good time to get into the year-long program, right? But if it's taking you longer than 6 weeks to grieve this, like I said, there's a problem there, and you probably need to get some assistance or help. EMDR is a very useful tool for processing grief and loss. The loss of a relationship, excuse me, the loss of a relationship is indeed a loss and is indeed something that needs to be grieved. EMDR is spectacular at getting you through that. I'm an EMDR therapist. I can help you there. But there are also other therapists that are, can do this technique with you. So, and if you have my mindset course, I do have a module on that. It's more effective to do it with somebody, but it's not a loss to do it on your own. And I have a module in the mindset course that tells you my format for how to do that. Okay, so EMDR is a good thing. Doing identity work, also in the mindset course, is a good thing to do too, because you need to reestablish a new version of you without this person. And part of that means doing a general overhaul of yourself, your stuff, your environment, cleaning out your environments, your cars, your vehicles, the way things are organized in your home, maybe redecorating a little bit, maybe changing your wardrobe. Changing your wardrobe can be very powerful. And so when you do identity work with me or just on your own, which you really think about who you are, where you're going, and you process through that and what better version of yourself you have in store for you now that this relationship is over with. See how that contexts this thing in a good way, puts it in a context that's better than ever before, because the context is it's good that this relationship's over because now I can focus on being a better version of myself. This relationship was probably hindering you from being that person. So now that she is no longer there, the relationship's no longer there, you can overhaul all these things. And so that's what I recommend in doing that that identity work and that makeover of all of your stuff, your all the things you have, and plus yourself, your wardrobe, all those things is part of it. And so those are some additional tips to kind of give you guys a help. And that's about it. Till next time.